All right, guys, I got my notes here for this. All right. So before I go into the next game, this is another video that I'm going to make for the YouTube channel. Um, yeah. So if you actually haven't already subscribed to the YouTube, go ahead and go there now. There, it's just Kiba, right? Guild Wars 2, or just Kiba because I do other stuff. But this will be the video is going to be about the hidden tech in Guild Wars 2. So there's a lot in Guild Wars 2 that can actually make you a better all-around player, not just in PvP, maybe also in World versus World if you're into roaming, and also into PVE. And if you are able to understand and learn these sooner rather than later, you're going to definitely improve exponentially faster if that's something that you are looking forward to. So it shouldn't be too long. I'm just going to go over all of these and all of the benefits that you gain from each of these individual um like tools that a lot of high players, like good players, export or exploit. So uh for the YouTube, uh if you like any of this content, yeah, go ahead and subscribe, follow the channel, and share. If anything I missed, go ahead and let me know, so I can make sure to put that into like another video in the future. But the first one I want to go over is Stow Weapon. So you've seen me do this whenever I'm in PvP, especially against Spellbreakers, or specifically against Spellbreakers because I end up fighting them a lot, right? Stow Weapon is the ability to basically put your weapon away without doing any of the attacks. It's really useful because it can bait full counters for Spellbreaker. It can bait dodges. There's a lot that it can actually bait and prevent you from hitting. Another example, if you're fighting anything like an Ellie, right? You know, Ellies can get Shocking Aura. And what Shocking Aura does, this big giant electric ball around them, is if you hit them when they have that, it will actually stun you. So it's something you want to avoid. The other thing is that if you're fighting a Revenant or um, mostly Revenants that use the Herald skill, which is the skill that everything that you do in terms of damaging them, they take as healing. So if there's a Revenant that has like 10% HP and you just start spamming your attacks when he uses the heal, you could end up giving him full HP again. This prevents you from doing that, right? So as you see here, I throw a weapon and then I stow it before I actually launch the weapon. So those are some of the benefits. Another one is that it saves a cooldown. If you are trying to use a skill, Rangers do this a lot, um, but I'll just say like a warrior, right? If I wanted to use this 4 skill, the cooldown on this weapon is going to be 15 seconds, right? But if I stow it, it's actually going back to just a regular internal cooldown of 3 seconds, so I can recast it again. This is useful for other skills, right? The Chilling Nova, which is like the ultimate freeze ability from a um, Necromancer, and also the Wings of a Revenant. So those are some of the benefits that you get from it. Is it actually, especially in combat, you can kind of use it as a feint, right? Like feinting jabs, making your opponent waste their cooldowns and their abilities, to be able to make sure that you have the upper hand at all times when you're fighting them. Another thing, so to way to set this up, once I get into the PvP arena, I'll just show you how to set it up. You went a long time. Yes, that is true. You did. So it's pretty simple to set up. You would go to your game menu, go to your options, and then in your keybinds, there's going to be a, excuse me, at the very bottom, there should be specialty or miscellaneous right here. Miscellaneous down here, you'll see this here called Stow Weapons, right? Stow Draw Weapons. I use it as tab. You can set it up with it, whatever you want to do, but ideally what you want to do is you want to set it up at a button that you can click as fast as possible without messing up your rotation or your other abilities, right? Um, Things to note about this is that not every skill actually has a Stow Weapon ability. So what you probably should do is you probably should learn whatever class you want to play, see what abilities have stow, um, right? Because like if I do Revenant 3 and I try to stow it, you can. But if I do like if I go to a 5, right, you can't stow it once you're already like in the animation halfway through. So just learn which ones you can and cannot stow. Um, Another key point is that there are certain abilities that you can learn that will keep the animation cast even when you stow it. The Dragon 5 on Revenant is a really good one because if you use it and you stow, you still keep the ability up, but you don't use the cooldown, but the dragon still actually finishes the animation. So it looks like you did it, right? If someone's not paying attention, they may think you used it, which you could save it for another, another time when you need to interrupt somebody or just knock some bodies off of a node or something. The next one is the about face button. So about face is when you're running, you've seen me do this before, you turn around, right? Almost instantly. This is like really useful like in changing directions really quickly for a few different reasons. One of them is if you're trying to kite, right? When you're kiting damage, if you see somebody that like you're running towards or they're chasing you and you about face and they're attacking in front of you, you could actually avoid a ton of that damage, right? If someone's like throwing a ton of burst in front of you and you about face. Another thing too about face is that in many instances, if there's like platforms like this in PvP, right? Let's say there's a map that you're in. So if I go to my arena here, I'll show you. All right. So, oh, that's another about face benefit is certain skills like the Revenant where you have the reposting shadows, right? It makes you run backwards, but if you want to go the opposite direction, you can about face and use it and keep moving in the direction that you're running away from. This is really helpful if you get stunned. I've been stunned before where like I'm running and I get stunned, right? I don't want to run back into the enemy. If like my team's in front of me, but the enemy's back here, right? I don't want to like dodge roll back into them. So like I get stunned here, boom, about face and go back to my team, right? Another, as I was gonna say, the other one that you can do is right here. Let's say you have platforms and you are running away. If you jump and about face, it can psych out your opponents, and they may end up falling. I've done this plenty of times in matches where I just jump forward, and then about face in midair, and then all of a sudden I'm safe, right? As long as no one can teleport on me, I'm basically scot free, and I can just recharge my cooldowns. That Temple of the Silent Storm is a really good one to use that in basically any map like this. And if you do this, if you learn how to do this frequently, I mean, when you start getting into PvP and you're playing against like low level players, they will just completely run away, right? Or they'll completely like miss that. They'll run straight ahead, right? They'll forget how to do this. So that's really useful. Another one that you can do is if you about face while channeling a weapon. Let's say Shackling Wave, which is Revenant 4, right? You attack. It's got a cooldown of 15 seconds, but if you want, it's got a cone attack, so it attacks straight in front of it once the animation is done. If you want to kind of psych somebody out, and if they're like either chasing you or you want to just like if they're running behind you, you can use it and then about face, and it will actually cast right here where they're at, right? So this is really good if you need a quick if you need to turn around really quickly to be able to attack somebody. It doesn't cancel the ability. Greatsword 4 on warrior is kind of the same thing. You can throw your sword forward and then about face and actually throws it in the opposite direction. So it's a good way of like faking out your opponents and then using the ability to catch them at the last second. As I said, key points. So there is a problem with it if you use your mouse to like change your camera and run. If you about face, right, it can reset your camera like this, and that gets annoying So what you have to do is on your mouse, you can only click this button, right? If you click only that button, it won't reset your camera. And then you can actually click the other one and it will turn you around. But make sure that you only do, you don't hold them both at the same time. If you hold them both at the same time, it's going to reset your camera and that could mess up just basically mess you up altogether and you could lose a fight or whatever. So how to set up about face, same thing. You go here into your settings. It's actually going to be at the very top in the movement skills. So what I did is I removed my strafe buttons, strafe left and right. They're very useless. And I use my about face as E. So it can be right next to my W key. The other one is automatic camera reset. Now, the thing I just showed you is if you reset your camera, but you could see that I'm running without like my camera turning around. For a lot of new players, like the setting by default is going to turn your camera where you're running towards, which can be very, very annoying, especially if you're trying to like attack people from behind you, right? So what you got to do is that actually is going to help you like keep LOS of your opponent. If you're attacking somebody from behind you, you can still keep the line of sight on them by making sure that your camera is facing that direction. How to fix that? You would go here into the options main screen. Now there is a button that will share here, and it's going to be in the camera settings. And so you would use free camera, which prevents your camera from realigning behind your character. You can also remove camera shake. I would totally remove this if you haven't yet. It's totally worth it. Really nothing else other than that. It just helps you be more fluid in your gameplay. The next one is going to be instant range indicator. So I'm going to go back on Warrior to show this to you guys. Promote skill target. What that does is, so the promote skill target one, I don't believe, I have to read that one real quick again. Show skill recharge, yeah. I forget which one it is. Oh, it's in the combat, right? Promote skill target automatically. No, I do not. Because that's going to lock you onto a target when you hit them. And that can actually mess you up if in giant team fights. So I personally do not use that. As I was saying here, the warrior or just anyone, the next one is going to be fast with range indicator. This is actually really, really helpful when you're trying to use a skill that would typically have, let's say, we'll just use staff, right? By default, you're going to have it set up to be, mine says instant. So you're going to have it set to be normal, right? Normal is going to do this. When you use a skill, there's two things about this. The first one is to make sure that you have the ground targeting. Make sure that you have it set to lock at maximum range. That's going to prevent you from going further and not being able to use it, even if your mouse goes up, right? So if your mouse goes all the way out, and typically when you first start, you're going to see like this giant red. You're going to see it go red because you're not going to be able to like move into that spot, right? But if you lock it, it's going to stay at the furthest range possible, which is that little bottom thing. What you want to do, so typically when you first start as well, it will have it to where you can place it, right? Now, the other one, the other setting is going to be fast with range indicator. This allows you to, once you remove your finger from the bind, it'll do it again, or it'll auto cast it, right? So if I use it, boom. But the problem with that is it's still too slow. So the best thing to do is use it an instant. Instant means wherever your cursor is, it'll go automatically, right? You can see how seamless that is compared to like waiting like that delay split second, which can save you a lot of time and actually can keep you alive longer for many different reasons. If I use my 3 skill to give me the Aegis and I just put it at my feet, it automatically gives it to me. But if I was to use fast with range indicator, there's a split second delay that I can actually get interrupted and it could cause me to lose a fight, right? So that's really, really useful to switch that out, is those two things, right? In your settings, you go here to combat ground, put your ground targeting to instant, and then lock ground targeting at maximum skill range. As I said, the benefits are faster casts. You'll see engineers with grenades. Grenades are really useful. You can cast grenades faster. With thieves, you can use short bow a lot quicker. There's a lot of benefits to this that are going to keep you like just able to do more damage quicker, and not just in PvP, but like if you have instant in PVE, like when you're trying to DPS things, it's just going to constantly keep your DPS a lot higher than if you don't have it on. The only thing to note about this, right? Because you can use fast with range indicator. The only thing to note is that you can like if you're a support, just be careful with this, because one of the things you don't want to do is, let's say you have a res, like res banner or a res glyph or anything. You know how it has that animation cast? Well, the thing about instant is once the cast is finished, the skill will drop wherever your mouse cursor is, right? So if my mouse cursor is right here and I use Banner of Tactics and I put my mouse over here, it's actually going to swap over to this side, as you saw that, right? Make sure that you can, this is going to take some skill, but make sure you can run and keep your mouse cursor where you want. Because if, like, let's say I use my banner, right? This is my res banner. Let's say those are my teammates and they're dead. If I use it and I just want it over there, that's how I would do it. It's actually really useful to do this, to learn this sooner rather than later. Because what ends up happening is if you try to do like fast with range indicator, and it locks it in once the skill has been executed. So you can't move it. If somebody knocks like that your teammate away from the cast, then you're not going to be able to res them. So I learned this when elementalists would run tornadoes and knock bodies all the way around. I would just follow my teammate that was getting knocked around with my mouse, and that allowed me to res them. Because if I didn't do that, they would end up dying, because I was just not going to be able to get it. The body was already off of the res point there. The next one that I want to address is going to be a really, really useful trick that I learned after playing Ranger, which was what you want to do. A lot of new players have problems with line of sight when it comes to like longbow or something like a ranged weapon, because the movement of players, people move around so much. So you're going to obviously have issues with line of sight, right? If I'm like trying to attack this guy and I'm like, oh, trying to attack him, it's not going to let me, right? Oh, I can't attack him, right? Because I it's like LOS, right? If I just do this, so like let's say I try to do a rapid fire on him, right? Boom. And like it will stop at times, right? If I don't get the cast because like he's running around me. This is actually really important when you have somebody like this, like on a node, right? Like you can't shoot them. Like if you guys are running around like fighting like this. So what's important is that if you want to cast a skill, you should actually just stop moving, even if you're facing away from them. If I press 2 and I'm not moving at all, it reorients my character to where they're at. So this is really beneficial, as I said, when you're moving around a lot. If there's like a thief that's just teleporting behind you and in front of you, or somebody just keeps running in front of you and behind you, just stop where you're at in place and make sure it's going to actually, like I said, orient you. You're going to land your hits. Just one thing to be careful, obviously don't stand in too much like poison or damage. If you're doing this, make sure that you're away from any sort of damage like on a node. The next one, I could do in a bit of Binster. The next one is skill retargeting. So skill retargeting is the ability to, um, it's the ability to, like, basically, I'll just show you real quick. Let me swap this to greatsword. So skill retargeting allows you to go back to another target if you don't have them targeted, and then you want to target them again, right? So I'll show you. So if I press 5 and I target this guy, it runs me back to him. Okay. Why this is really, really useful in PvP is it does fake out a lot of opponents. It's misdirection. You can stun a lot of opponents. Like Bull's Charge, good players are gonna just see that coming, right, a mile away. So what you want to do is you want to be able to hit it and then go back into them, so that they won't have enough reaction time to be able to dodge that, right? So that's what skill retargeting is. If you go into your options and go to combat again, you'll see it here at the bottom. When you use a skill that targets an enemy, changing your target will cause the skill to update to the new player. You could have nobody targeted or you could have somebody targeted. It doesn't matter. The key points, some skills can do this, obviously. Others may not be able to. But also what you want to do is you want to actually get really good at this, because, and you can train by doing like your Greatsword 5 first. Make sure your target button is on a button that's quick to press, right? So like if I do go into it, because if you learn it with like a Greatsword 5 and you get really good at like the muscle memory, the other skill that you can do it with, which is really, really helpful, would be like, let me get out of combat real quick, guys. Is going to be shield. Now, shield has like a really short cast time for shield blow, right? So you come in, you press 4, and it retargets to it. Quick way to get a good stun. So that's just, like I said, another benefit. You learn that, you're going to be able to keep opponents locked down basically at a high percentage rate. And the final one that I wanted to touch over is going to be the dodge jump. Now, there's no keybind to this, but what you just need to make sure to do is to make sure to have your dodge and jump binded in a way that you can press both of them at the same time. Now, you've probably heard this for like, if you've done Super Adventure Box when that's around, there are only certain like jump spots that you can get to by dodge jumping, because they are just too far for a regular jump or regular dodge roll, or mostly a regular jump, right? Oh, you guys are gonna see my password. Doesn't matter. So dodge jumping allows you to traverse a little bit further. Now, it's really helpful because if you need to dodge roll, if you want to dodge roll your to get out of damage, it will move you, but it may not move you as far as like, okay, hold on, I'm messing this up, as dodge jumping would, right? Dodge jumping is going to give you a little bit extra distance and keep you alive longer. So the next thing, just show you like why it's important, right? If you just try to jump here, right? This is one spot that a lot of time players try to jump onto. And you can see it's very difficult for me to jump here unless I do that, right? But it's a lot easier if I just dodge jump. Like you already got higher ground, right? It makes it so much easier when you dodge jump into things to be able to get into like certain kite spots. Like here, you know, you could dodge jump, boom, right? Land on it. So that's why if you bind your dodge and your jump, like mine's R, right? So I can put space bar and R at the same time. And I know I'm messing it up now, but typically I wouldn't. And it would allow you to just jump a little bit further, especially if you have like conditions on that like slow you down, like chill. You may be able to still make that jump with that. So it's really beneficial for kiting. And if you kite well, especially in PvP, you're going to be able to survive a lot longer, and be more impactful for your team. So those are basically all the like hidden tech abilities that I kind of wrote down earlier. If there's anything I missed, as I said, when this is on YouTube, go ahead and comment in the comments below what I missed, and we'll try to create something separate other than that.